Trae Young is one of my favorite players in basketball. Despite being at a disadvantage frame-wise, he's among the most dominant offensive players in the NBA. He puts up video game-like numbers year in and year out, and his last season was the best season of his young NBA career. I know the playoffs for Trae Young were not the best, to say the least. In fact, you could say they were flat out awful for his standards in 2022, but one playoff series as a 23-year-old should not take away from what he's been able to prove as an NBA player, especially what he did in 2021. I think everyone recognizes that Trae Young is a great player, but to me, he's by far the best non-Luka young guard in basketball, the best small guard in basketball, and a dark horse MVP candidate for this upcoming season. There were 5 players in NBA history to average at least 28 points per game and 9 assists per game in a single season: Oscar Robertson, Nate Archibald, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Trae Young. And of the players to do it in the modern era, which would be Westbrook, Harden, and Young, Trae is the only of those 3 to have done it in multiple seasons. And mind you, he's only 23 years old, so he very well could reach the 8 times that Oscar Robertson did it. To make history at this young of an age is special and also intriguing considering how much more history Trae Young could make from a statistical perspective. I mentioned in my last video about Trae Young that he basically does everything you need to be a superstar level player at his size. He's one of the 10 best scorers and, in my opinion, one of the 5 best passers in basketball. He has an elite handle, quickness, touch, and craft around the basket, and he's also one of the best foul drawers in the game as well, as he leverages his smaller frame to his advantage to create contact. Everything he does as a player really goes to show you the bar it takes to be a great NBA player as a smaller guard, and he really shows you just how hard it is to reach that bar. If it was easy, every small guard could do it, and there would be a lot more small guards like Trae Young in the league. But Trae is the only small guard recently who's entered the league and been able to do it. He averaged 28.4 points a game on a 60.32 shooting percentage this past season, which is really good in general, but especially for a small guard that is as ball dominant of an offensive player as he is. He averaged the most assists per game this past season for his career, as well as having his best field goal percentage, 2-point field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage, free throw percentage, effective field goal percentage, and true shooting percentage this season. His free throw numbers were a bit down from a attempt rate perspective, but he did have a slower start in this regard, but eventually picked up his production at the line as the season went along. He's a great offensive player, and players like him are going to adjust and improvise around rules that are put in place, and his free throw numbers increasing as the season went along also reflect this. And I did mention in the other video I made about Trae that he's not just a good 3-point shooter with deep shooting range, he's also a great mid-range shooter. I would argue an even better mid-range shooter than 3-point shooter, and his combination of good 3-point shooting and great mid-range shooting make him one of the best shooters in basketball. And considering he doesn't have nearly as much height as the other great pull-up mid-range shooters in the league, it makes it even more impressive. The numbers are impressive, but watching him play is even more impressive. He's one of the most fun players to watch for the same reasons almost all elite playmakers are fun to watch. He's crafty, he's creative, he's electric, but most importantly, he controls the entire floor on offense. He manipulates defenses using his threat as both a passer and a scorer. You have to deal with either an elite scorer or an elite passer, and most of the time you actually gotta deal with both. This makes Trae a complete offensive threat as far as an offensive creator. I will always say this, but watching a small guard dominate a game is one of the most fun things to watch in basketball, especially in person. Seeing a smaller player dominate a game that's known for its players being tall is very entertaining to say the least. It's why Celtics Isaiah Thomas is one of my favorite players ever, and it's also why Trae Young is trending towards one of my favorite players ever. Now, Trae Young's MVP candidacy is a bit hard to predict. I think it might be harder for the Hawks to be a top 3 seed in order to make that real case for Trae to win MVP. Now, I do believe that the Hawks will be better this season. Last season, they were absolutely wrecked by injuries. John Collins and DeAndre Hunter, who were arguably the second and third, or at the very least third and fourth best players on the roster, missed significant time with injury, as well as Onyeka Okongwu missing time with injury. and Okongwu, in my opinion, was their second best defender on the roster, as well as my bet to be their best long-term defender on the team, because I think he has a legit defensive player of the year kind of potential. So Trae Young had to carry an offensive load even more than the already large one he had on his plate. But the Hawks did make moves in the offseason to help out Trae Young. They traded for DeJounte Murray, who is an interesting fit with Trae to say the least, but he should be able to take some of that offensive load off Trae and maybe allow Trae to play a bit more off ball, which could be beneficial for the offense. They also drafted AJ Griffin with the 16th overall pick. Griffin, in my opinion, was a top 5 player in that class, or at the very least a top 5 talent. I actually had him and Jalen Duren tied for that number 5 spot, and they were interchangeable in that 5-6 spot for me. But he did fall in the draft due to some medical concerns, but he's 6'6", 220 pounds with a 7-foot wingspan, who's also an elite shooter with great shot versatility both on and off the ball as a jump shooter from deep, while also being one of the youngest players in the draft. Of course, injuries are a concern, but if he stays healthy, which I hope that he does, he should be a really good fit as a rotation piece and maybe even a starter for the Hawks, even though he is a rookie and the Hawks have shown that they don't always play rookies the most. He does have a defined skill set that fits well next to Trae as a floor spacer, so I could see him getting minutes early on. I don't know if he will get minutes as a rookie, but even if he doesn't, he still is a great long-term piece next to Trae, so I do expect the Hawks to be better this season. But unlike what I talked about with Luka in that video I made about him, the Hawks weren't a top 5 seed last season like the Mavs were. They were a playing team. So while I do think they will be better, I do expect them to be more of a potential 4-6 seed. Maybe could still even be a play-in team because they did win 43 games and were still a play-in team. The East is a better conference than the West in my opinion. But I will say that they don't have to deal with as many threats compared to the West among the potential playoff teams that didn't make it last season. I mean, they have Cleveland, who should be a way better team with health, and they would have been a playoff lock if they didn't deal with the injuries they did down the stretch of the season. But outside of that, they don't have to deal with teams like the Clippers or the Pelicans, who in my opinion are real threats for the West title if healthy. But at the end of the day, you never know. I could be very well wrong about all of this, and it wouldn't shock me at all. You guys are very vocal about how wrong I am in the comment section, it seems. So, feel free to continue to do that if you don't agree with any of this. But again, only time will tell where the Hawks are. They could be where I predict, like a 4-6 seed. They could be a top 3 seed. They could be the best team in the league for all we know. That's the joy of all of this, but based off what I've seen and based off what they've added, I do think that I've set a somewhat reasonable expectation for where they're going to finish. Trae Young is an incredible player, one of the most talented I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes in person. He's a player that you have to see in person if you love basketball. He's truly a fun player to watch up close. And he's always a fun player for me to make videos about because of how good he is and how entertaining he is as a player. The Hawks are a hard team to predict because of how good teams in the East like Milwaukee, Boston, Brooklyn, Philly, Miami, etc. are. But Trae Young is not a hard player to predict because we have seen more than enough from him. He solidified himself as one of the best players in basketball, and I can't wait to see where he goes from here. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, haven't already, like, subscribe, and notification bell, notified whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, so if that interests you, I think you would enjoy this channel. And liking and subscribing are the best way you could help support me as a content creator, help me grow and build my platform up so I can make more videos for you guys. If you want to see other videos that I make that aren't related to basketball, I have a long form video essay channel where I make videos that are around 20 plus minutes about anime and cartoons, so if you want to check that out, click the link to that description below. I have a new video in the works. I just started the script for it over there, so if you want to check that out, pin comment, link in the description. 2 videos will be popping up here from that channel, one about Classroom of the Elite, the other about Scooby-Doo. So if you want to check that out, click either of those videos, click the icon in the middle to subscribe if you haven't already, or if you want to check out more videos that I've made. And YouTube will be recommending a video over here. I stumbled through the end of this. I'm sorry, but that's the end of the video. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys in the next one.